Oh my gosh, I think we're going over. I'm so impressed that we didn't talk for half an hour and forget to go over live to YouTube. So close.
Very, very close to doing it.
Mr. Simon Kassianides, how are you?
Hi, everybody. Oh, I'm very well. I'm freezing my bottom off in Sweden at the moment.
Yeah, it's snowing.
Yeah, you just
just showing you guys actually settled. It's snowing out there. It's very confusing.
Oh, that's the big thing, isn't it? Is it settling? Is it settling? Oh, it's
settling. From England. That's all we grew up really wanting to know. If snow didn't settle, it's a bit rubbish.
Does that mean it's like accumulating?
We don't know. It was just the words you use. No one knows what it is.
If it settled, you could maybe not go to school, but if it doesn't settle, there's no way school's cancelled, was kind of what I had in my head, you know. I
remember that. Yeah.
Oh, school.
Oh, school.
Hey, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you, Simon.
Oh my God, thank you.
Let's do a countdown to press play, because otherwise, and then that could just be going on in the background. So everybody watching at home, I don't have my timer in the basement in Indiana, but we do have this spangly backdrop. So that's exciting. Right, so everybody at home, I'm counting down. I'm at the Marvel flip. 3, 2, 1, play. There we go.
Should I turn the volume down?
Maybe just a touch, but
okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Have you guys talked about when we used to do the table reads and how
No. No, so please, this is one of my most favorite Shield stories ever, if it's what I think it is.
Oh, no, I was just talking about when we used to like always say Marvel's Agents of Shield, and we all used to say it all at the same time.
Yes, I don't think we have.
I don't know about this. What's that?
Oh, look, there you are. You know, you've just come on this screen and you're just like crazy, delicious soup.
You do intense so well, Simon.
Well. Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Yeah,
which is crazy because you are not
the most giggly of the giggles.
Yeah, just so not Baksi in real life.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I don't know. I was thinking about this today in terms of coming up with the character and the whole history of that.
Yeah.
I mean, I've read certain things about it, and I think you and I have talked about it with people in various stages, but that whole character and the idea of it all came up at the table read. I think that's what you were just about to start.
Yes, it was. But okay, so I feel like I'm running over too many things. The first thing I was going to say was the suit looks insane. And actually, Anne Foley, costume designer, texted me today saying, I saw Simon's on. Get him to talk about his suit and how good he looked.
Which one? I mean, she basically dressed me. She decided, I think I walked in, and I think that my shape just fit in every suit off the rack. And so for her, it was the most exciting person physically because she didn't have to move much. And she just went nuts. I think we got on very well. I mean, Anne became a great friend and still is a great friend.
Yeah.
But my God, we had fun getting dressed for this show. I mean, Baksi was a very well dressed.
Very well dressed.
So suave. Yeah, and then the second thing that I ran over was about the Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So what we just saw was the Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. logo come into the screen. Now we're into the episode, little Simon's morning routine. How cute.
I remember that.
So that was in the script. So there'd be what do you call it? Like the teaser of an episode is the first page and a half.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'd say that.
And then it has the title of the show, which is when it comes up, and then it has the whole script. So as we would read each episode, we do a table read all together, and we'd all say together, "Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D." And it was one of those where the regulars would get so excited and be kind of like, I mean, it was so nerdy. And then people that were new were like, what is happening? Okay, I'm so...
I mean, I remember I was so nervous because I was in a really weird place. I'd just come back, you know, I had some family, you know, there was some really sad things up in my family. I auditioned for Bobby's, for Nick
for Lance Hunter.
Yeah, I auditioned for that. Hadn't heard anything. They called back. They said, "Oh, they're going a different way." But there's a role where you would play the henchman for an episode or two. Would you be interested in doing that? And I said, yeah, sure. You know, I'd love to do that. Can I have a look at the material? And it wasn't forthcoming. And once I got to the table read and they gave me the script, it was clear that the reason why it wasn't forthcoming was it was 3 or 4 lines. And they told me after being in the show for like 5 or 6 episodes, they were going to kill me after 2 episodes. So I died in the last episode where you saw me before this whole thing happens. And I just was sitting there on the table read, and everyone's coming in, and it's just like, you know, season 2, everyone's like, oh, hi, what'd you get up to on the break? And everyone's like, and you're there. And
came in, 202, wasn't it?
No, I was there for 201. 201. Yeah.
Just for that little bit you're on a monitor, right? On a screen somewhere.
That's it. Yeah, that was it. And at the very end, I've got a scene with Whitehall. It was one line. And I just thought, I've got to give this guy a voice, and I've got to.
So, hang on. You'd just come back from the UK.
Yeah.
Europe. You'd flown in. Family stuff had kind of happened that had like knocked you off your feet a little bit emotionally.
Totally. Yeah.
And you land in LA. You get the call that says, "Hey, remember that show that you went up for that you didn't get the role? There's this part. We can't tell you anything, but just turn up to this table read." And so then you arrive at the table read, and they hadn't given you the script.
Nope.
So this is episode 1 after we've all just had 2 months off, and a group of actors that haven't seen each other for a week are like absolutely not. So imagine 2 months. We're like,
yeah.
You're there, don't know anyone,
nope.
Haven't read the script, are going to read it for the first time in front of all the bosses, having no idea.
Yeah, or okay. I had no idea who this guy was, Baksi. I had no idea what the lines were, the words, and I know I had the part, and I had 2 episodes, and that was it. And I thought, I was sitting there when everyone was, you know, I was in such a strange place emotionally. And I thought to myself, well, I've got to come up with something. You know, I wanted to, so I read through it very quickly while everyone was saying hello. And I thought, I've got an idea. I was like, you know I love comic books. I love the world. I was I was a comic book collector as a kid. And I came up with this voice. And I'll never forget it because I was sitting opposite you and Chloe. And I came up with this character, Bakshi's weird cadence and, you know, all of that weird shit that he does.
In 2 minutes flat.
Yeah. Just thought, let's go for it. Yeah, I just thought, well, let's really live this. Let's just perform, you know. So I came up with Baksi. And I thought, what are you going to do? They're going to kill you anyway, right? So like, and you looked up at me, and then Chloe looked at me like, oh, God, really? And I thought, good or bad? I couldn't quite figure out the reaction. And then 5 episodes later, Jeff Bell, I don't know if you remember this, at the end of the read, he was like, can we tell him, are we allowed to? I'm going to tell you anyway. You were meant to die in episode 202, but we loved your read at the first read so much that we didn't want to kill you. So that's the story of that. Yeah, so table reads were really really important, and you know can you know, so many people get fired off of stuff like that too.
Oh yeah, and I've always been so impressed by in that moment where it's a real sink or swim. Well, isn't it? It could have just been, hey, I'm just here to do these couple lines. I'm seeing myself as an actor that's just coming in for a couple lines. And you didn't. You were like, well, I've been given this opportunity. Yes, you know, the circumstances around it maybe aren't that fair. I haven't been given the script. I don't know what the character is. You know, you could have just been so flustered and just tried to get through it, but you didn't. You just went, well, do you know what? What is the worst thing that happens? I'm gone next episode anyway. Yeah, I'm gonna just go 1,00000%. And it's
also when you love what you do, like I love what I do so much. I just thought, well, if this is the world and this is the guy, and he's meant to be the guy that's kind of, you know, the kind of evil, you know, the guy that does all the bad things that Whitehall wants, then wouldn't he be a bit weird? And wouldn't he have his own little weird world?
Yeah.
And you know, luckily it landed. I mean, you know, it's been and to this day it's been one of the best things that I ever decided to do. Well, we became friends as a result of it.
Yeah. And what do they say? There's no small roles, just small actors.
Yes.
Yeah.
And there's so many. Yeah. Like Orlando Bloom, didn't he famously in his show at the end of drama school. He just walked on and said one line and got signed off that and booked.
And Peter Jackson put him on.
What's it?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Well, Clark.
Go ahead. And Clark as well. No, I was saying Orlando Bloom also did an episode of Casualty, which I did as well. So, you know.
Hey, Casualty. I suppose Holby City's still going, isn't it?
I think so.
Casualty was a show, like a Grey's Anatomy kind of hospital drama that it just was so good because it gave so many jobs to so many actors because every week there were, 5 new patients and you could.
Brilliant
show. Such a good one, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, Clark, were you just going to say that Clark's whole thing was...
Yeah, I mean, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was sort of birthed off of Clark being on Iron Man and just continuing to riff with Robert Downey Jr.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Do you think, Simon, your kind of attitude of, oh, I'm just going to go for it, and like you saying, this is what you love to do, this is your passion? Because now I'm thinking about Anne texting me saying, oh my gosh, mention about the suits, and then you saying about how she got so excited, and like you came in with a character that was just meant to be in 2 episodes, and even if you'd have just stayed in those 2 episodes, that also would have been a success.
Yeah.
Do you think that the passion that you brought to every piece of it kind of helped ignite the whole, like elevate everything, because I'm just thinking for Anne to reach out and say, oh, we had the best time in a fitting.
We did, yeah.
That's an unusual thing, isn't it? Like if you have that passion,
that's also a testament to Simon. I mean,
no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, that's what you're saying. It's like you are such a magnet, like you just have such magnetism. Anyways, it's like people love to love you. I think because you're great to be around.
I mean, I'm gonna agree with everything you're saying.
Yeah, what is this?
I mean, at this point, I'm just gonna smile and blush. If I say anything at this point, I'm a dick.
Yeah. You're like, yeah, that's me. That feels about right. Look,
I guess. I mean,
on the chat. I'm all in the chat.
I think that. I guess to answer that question, I think that when there's certain things that have happened over my career, that there are certain stages where you really come face to face with why you do such a job. And I think that as you get older, it really does tend to distill away various maybe immature or naive feelings towards this business that exists in terms of, wanting to be famous or, I think that there's so much around what we do that isn't part of the magic. Because when you're on set, it's long hours, it's hard work. You're invariably next to people that are talking about, an abscess on their foot or something that you couldn't be, or their Uncle Pete and his bad breath, stuff you don't care about at 3 a.m. And you've really got to love what you do, right? So when that, I guess for me, it's a genuine passion, and I love researching everything that I do. So by the time you get to a fitting, you're at a point where you're being given the chance to build a character. I mean, my readings, every reading I've ever done, every character I've ever played, by the time I get to any room where the job's been given, I'm like, this is the most collective business that's out there. And, and when you meet people that are only going to add value to what you're trying to deliver, and when the people that you meet in various departments all come together and see that you just want to make it as good as possible and acknowledge everyone else's expertise that make you, when you walk on that set, from the hair that we created of this character, Buffon, that whole thing, from all of that is just, it's collective. And, I guess if people feed, well, I think that if you've got to realize that you're part of a process. And I think that's why you're such a good director as well, Lil, and why everyone loves this whole thing. It's because we know that it takes an army. Yeah. And that's the reason why we love what we do, I guess. Yeah.
And that's so, yeah, you're so right. And I think that's why it was such a breath of fresh air, you coming on set. And why I always love, like the start of seasons and stuff, because you get all this new energy on that you go, wow, these sets are so cool. And I don't, you forget to notice the set every
You're
day.
back from summer break. It's like
Yeah.
the new kids in the class.
Yeah,
and
it's so fun. And you just, had such a great energy, and we connected. And then they just, so you were meant to be in the first 2 episodes. And then what, they just kind of keep calling your agent saying, hey, you want to do a couple more?
Simon's available.
Yeah, basically the deal with Baksi was, after a certain number of episodes, they would have had to have made me a regular. And there was, I don't know if people know this, but there's a certain amount of episodes you're allowed to be in a season as an actor before they then have to have a conversation about making you a regular, which is a whole other deal. It's, the whole...
I had no idea about that.
Yeah, there's a whole, thing about that. And so I guess they were just like, you've got to remember that you've got 22 episodes as a writer's room. And you've got an idea of, you've got the big columns of where you want to take the story. But what I've been told, and what certainly happened with me in this show, was when an actor comes in and the writers get excited about a character that they didn't know they would even encounter, they build around that. And a lot of times that happens. That's why when you said there's no small parts, in big shows that have so many episodes, if you go in and you have an idea, or some magic happens, I guess, writers want to jump on that.
Mm-hmm.
And so they very much did. They created this very hilarious, this person that just was so funny. I mean, this episode, compliance will be rewarded, the whole the hypnosis element of this. One of my favorite scenes was with you. I'm not sure if it's come up yet, but you're
at that huge table.
Oh yeah, that. But the thing is, I don't know if people know that, but we laughed so much.
So much, yeah. That's what I mean. I was like, whoa, this is cool to, because you always want to have that. I love my job. I love being at work, and I do feel like I did. But when you have somebody in there that's like building on your like positive vibes, by the end you're just like, oh my God.
You're humming. Yeah,
you taught me about coffee, you showed me the great espressos, how you make that. And we had weird connections of your brother knowing Zach's best friend in England. Right.
That was
so
such
many
a small
cool
world.
Connections. Oh my gosh, this is Adam Colbert. We love Adam. Did you?
Oh my gosh, that's right.
I know. He
was in a short as well, right?
Yeah, he was in a short that I wrote and did, and I love him. He's another one that we had scenes and it was just like, oh, we're gonna be really great friends. You are amazing. It's so nice, isn't it, when you meet each other on that, like, I don't know, you're on the same wavelength somehow.
For me it was like, I think, this, where was I at this juncture of things that were going on? It was
here's the scene now coming you're talking about. Us at that table.
Yeah, this scene for me was interesting. I had no idea how they were going to shoot it. I just knew it was you and I just thought, I wonder how they're going to play this. I don't know how they're going to shoot it. I don't know what choices are available to us. I'd like to play it a certain way.
Yeah, there we are.
This whole thing for me, Sinister. It was really it was a very interesting character to play. Very interesting. Like nothing like me, as you say, but so much fun. And the best thing about it, obviously, the fans' reactions to him was just...
Yeah, but that's what's so lovely, is that by the time the episode is aired, we're almost wrapped with the season. And so that fan interaction of, oh, they loved you. It's like, oh, well, you already booked another job and you're on a different show. So if only we knew before. And I think that's what is nice about, by the time we got to season 2, I think our writers and creators were so tapped in with where the fans were, because there was so much interaction on Twitter and live tweeting, and like fan rooms, and fan fiction had started being written, and they read all of it. So many of the storylines were influenced by fan interaction that I feel like season 2, we were all just in tune with what viewers would want. And I think they saw you and were like, yes, this is a comic book supervillain at its best.
I really liked as well. I mean, you know, I remember as the season progressed, you know, I'm not sure. It was really good to see the kind of comic book comedy that they allowed for his character, because he's a coward. So like, I remember this. I think it's one of the later episodes, which we'll get to. But he is, the ruse is that, you know, he's the head of Hydra, and they've staged this killing of Coulson and May, and they get shot, and you know, it's a whole staged thing. And then Hunter, you know, basically takes me and threatens to assassinate me, and he falls apart with his cowardice. And I just thought, to play such a sinister, evil, controlling lunatic, it was just so much fun. I mean, you know, and the suits, and then Anne got to dress me casually by the end of it. It was brilliant. I honestly, I had such a laugh. It was such a good time.
There's a lot of questions coming out about the suits in particular, Simon.
Did
you get to keep any of them? And the designers, do you remember any of the designers?
God, do I remember the designers? I think, yeah, there was a really good Ralph Lauren purple label, I want to say. I think that was a really nice suit there. Some of them were...
Thanks, Anne, that question.
Yeah, ask her, yeah, give Anne a little...
Did you sneak any away? Or a couple of them in here?
No. Anne was like, you know, I'd love to do this, but we can't.
Yeah.
No, I mean, I tried. I really did.
Yeah, everything goes into a big warehouse somewhere in, like, you know, Disneyland,
Disney
that's
Ranch.
got filled with all our special amazing things. I wonder if Bakshi's suit was one of the items that got auctioned.
Could have been.
Iconic.
My God, I just remember those fittings. It was so much fun. From like the cufflinks. I think that Anne decided early on, she was like, I think that this guy is only a white shirt guy.
Love it.
And we both were like, yeah, that works. I mean, you've got to realize that when there's a character that's growing, I don't know, I think from the very first fitting, Anne and I just connected, and it was like, look, let's build something here that has rules. And I think the tie, there was a tie bar.
Yeah.
Tie bar was always going to be in line with the pocket square, and the pocket square was going to be a certain color, and it was a white shirt. There were all these little rules about that we came up with that played through the season.
Yeah, that's so cool.
Fun, yeah.
She just texts back saying they were all from Mr. Porter, which is kind of a luxury online website, isn't it? Yeah. She said, I wish my memory were that good to remember the designers, but she said they were mostly British, which is also a super cool thing.
Yeah, because of the character having, you know, being the kind of, you know.
This is such a great
scene. Oh my
scene.
Gosh, look, you're marching me away.
Yeah, this was a good scene.
And
this is when I say you're coming with us.
Yes, and you give me the Hydra jacket, which was the wrap gift for season 2. I still have that coat. If all our stuff wasn't in storage all around the world, I would have worn it for today.
Yes.
It was
how good is the guy, I've forgotten his name now, you have to remind me, who played the guy
Reed Diamond?
The guy that can freeze everything.
Oh, Dylan.
Oh, Dylan Minnette, yeah.
Dylan Minnette.
He's done so great as well. Yeah, he was great on that
too. Like a casual, like, rock star now.
Yeah,
casual rock star.
So talented.
Yeah.
So nice, like such a nice guy. I mean, this was 2014. This came out October 2014.
And this is Bobby Roth was the director.
Bobby Roth, Bobby Monica Owusu Green wrote it.
And I've had a few coffees with Bobby over the years. You know, he's a nice guy. But I remember that boat. Do you remember that boat?
Oh my God.
Is that down in Long Beach?
Yeah, it was down in Long Beach, which was just it's such a scary drive down there, because everything's when you get like within 2 miles of the location, everything is one way. So if you get off at the wrong point or miss your exit for the freeway, then you're an extra 15 minutes trying to get back on the right thing. It's so complicated. And so we'd be driving down there at the crack of dawn, like,
I remember you called me and you ended up in
I was in a panic, absolute panic.
Yeah, I remember that.
Wait a minute, 7 years ago? Was that 7? It was 6.
Can you believe it? Yeah, 7 years ago, almost 6.5.
And this is off of this season, Simon, but what was it like when you got the call to come back in season 4? Because you were sort of like, you thought it was done, right? And so then you're
yeah, I remember being in I remember being at my home when I was living off of Melrose Avenue in that one, and I got a phone call from one of the showrunners. I remember getting a phone call from Mo, and her telling me how great it would be to have me for that episode. And after I spoke to her, I was like, yeah, of course, absolutely, and it was hilarious to go back. But I hadn't had time. I mean, I was doing something else, and I was big. Like I didn't look.
Like you were big. Yeah. Remember, what were you doing? You trust no one?
No, I think I did a movie. I did a movie out in Santa Fe.
That's right.
Yes, was that the New Mexico?
I remember your lats just kept getting.
I was just massive,
wider.
I put on like 30 pounds or something stupid.
Oh my god!
Action. So I get to the the fitting and nothing fits. No. and I played, and I remember playing. The voice was there, and obviously the character, but I looked nothing like Baksi anymore. I lost. I was, I purposefully. I'd lost weight for something before I did Agents of Shield. So when I came into Agents of Shield, I was just sort of eating again. And then I thought, well, I'll just stay like this. And I stayed sort of thin. And then I kind of just got through that character. But by the time I came back for that, so when I watched it, I thought, yeah, okay, it's good that it exists in this alternate universe. Where you could have buff Baksi.
Buff Baksi. Look at his Baksi. Oh my god.
Because it wasn't the same guy, so luckily it worked. But no, it was great. I mean, I was there with, every single time I was on set with Clark, and I did the voice, and Clark, every single time because we'd talk like this and then I'd go into it, every single time I forget, he'd always look at me and go, Jesus Christ. And to this day, I don't know if that's good or bad. I still don't know. I still don't know.
Thanks, I guess. Yeah, it was just so, because it came with like the whole, it's similar to Ming in that she's so different from Agent May. It comes with a whole demeanor, and it's kind of scary because he's so intense, but then charming, and it's disarming. You don't know what to do with it. And
yeah, I do remember definitely, how did I get into the character of it all? It was all about, I mean, honestly, it was like every time I put on a suit, those particular suits, once that was on, it kind of, a suit always, everyone knows, as soon as you put on a suit, it does, your posture changes.
Yeah, it changes.
And with those suits in particular that were so well measured and adjusted for me, it was like stepping into that mentality. It was a switch. The minute I put on a jacket, it was just like ready to go. That's why every time you see him in a different outfit, I think there's one called Frenemy of Mine. No, not that one. There's one where we have the face thing where, our mask. I go in as the military leader, and then I torture May with the light.
He's my enemy, is it?
Yeah.
Episode 4, 204.
Yeah, and when he was wearing the military thing, it was Baksi, but it sort of wasn't, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So that was harder because I didn't have the uniform. It's weird what you hold on to in terms of characters.
Yeah.
How you inhabit a character and what you take forward. That's extra work. So when you tie yourself to an image or clothing, it's different. I think it's just you have to work a little bit harder when you change out of that.
Yeah, it's like having an accent, or
I mean, Superman not in the Superman costume. It's like it doesn't.
Yeah, just one pair of glasses changes everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
DC. Sorry
does
about
exist,
that.
perhaps
not.
Yeah. Oops.
God, we're inside this ship now, and all I can think of was being stressed. And looking at me in the scene with Dylan, I can just see the stress of the drive in my mind. And it was so loud too, with all the floors were great. So it was just, I think this whole scene's ADR. Or you try and time your lines with your footsteps so you're not, because
yeah, things like that you just don't ever no one teaches you that, drama when you're doing training or anything.
We don't care if you're acting good, we just need to hear you.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
Was this your first, because since Agents of Shield you have done well, how much can I say, a lot of sci-fi, say.
Yeah, I mean, you can say that I'm in what I'm in.
Yeah.
Mandalorian.
Yeah. I'm so nervous.
I was like, am I gonna
put
say-
out theme cut.
It's the same. Yeah, exactly. Bowler hat thrown across. Odd job. Yeah, cool.
Is it? I was just gonna say, with you saying like they don't necessarily teach you at drama school all these different, like the practical stuff of being on set, but how was it for you being involved in the Marvel universe or sci-fi, or we just saw you kind of put your hand to your ear and talk, which is kind of like your James Bond days. But like, how was it? Was that different than other acting you've done, and is it helping in Mando, or like, is there a connection there?
The Mandalorian is so technically it's just so incredible. I mean, if there's these making ofs, and the technology, what they're doing in the Mandalorian is that they are placing actors within something called the volume, which are ceiling and walls without any seams of LED screens that work with a motion capture camera and with a video game parallax, so that when the camera moves, the backgrounds move as well, so that what you're seeing as an audience is actually what we're seeing as actors. So when you're on top of a spaceship looking at a sunset, you are actually seeing what the audience is seeing. And so so it's not green screen. It's not green screen or. So I think coming into an environment like that, your imagination, you're living it, because there are certain things like the boat, for example, where we land and fight in that on the Mandalorian. That was green screen technology. We weren't actually on the water, but for the majority of the filming, you're in a situation where you are imagining certain things. I think that the closest connection to anything, I think when people ask about sci-fi or playing an alien or whatever character you're doing or world you have to inhabit, it goes back for me always, I think, of being a kid at home with your friends or siblings, and you're going, right, okay, you're the witch, I'm the sorcerer, this is the castle, and this is there's a shark, and we're on a moat, and you're just grabbing pillows, and you're on sofas, and you're like, oh, you fell in, you're dead. It's that same thing that you take forward, and if you don't connect those dots, I think you get into trouble, because it depends. There's so many things that you have to take. You have to have that playfulness and that imagination, and all the tools that go with it only help serve that. I think everything else on top of that is just, is can you get into the emotion of what's actually taking place on a human level?
Yeah.
But the imagination, all these, as far as technology moves and expands, I think it only adds to that experience within you and that kid within you. Because what we do is really make believe. And that's the most fun thing in the world,
Yeah.
I just remember you always talking about this scene where there was an explosion on a boat, and I think like you and Ian both were reacting as though it was like
on the bridge.
On the bridge, and it was like not as big of a, like, your
Yeah, we
reaction
were
was
like,
like, oh, that was like a little explosion. But if you had something like what you're talking about, it's just you know exactly what it is that you're reacting to. It's like you can have that more. It's like we're not envisioning two separate things, which is like I would think that would be a lot more helpful in terms of just being able to have that.
They had this this round table, and Carl Weathers was saying that. He was saying that when they turned up to a certain scene and they had the boat and the cave and the lava, and they were looking at that. they were all, there was no, you thought it was this shade of red. Everyone's in the same world.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it does. It goes a long way because you're that shared experience where there isn't a jump from filming into the reality. You're looking at what will end up on the screen. That's a huge leap.
Yeah. One, it's similar but lower budget of this episode of us being on the actual ship, like everything from when we arrived there and you kind of frog marched me up the ramp or whatever, that it's like,
oh my god, that ramp is so funny. Oh, that ramp. Oh, you just
probably a ramp.
Oh, how I was told to march up that looking cool, and it was just the outtakes of that must be priceless.
Yeah, so
whoever's got those, because I think I was commenting the whole way with you. I was like, oh god,
because you can't help it either when you're obviously, if we didn't have any lines as we were walking up, you do just walk out.
yeah.
Oh, my mic is turned down right now. Easier for me because my character is a bit whoa, but Baksi is definitely not.
I came in. I think the time that we really bonded was this episode. I think was when you and I really bonded, when I storm into the lab where you're working at the beginning of this episode. We were sitting in this hallway and something happened.
Oh my gosh! You know what? That's the next episode. But yes, because this is the moment when we were like, "Oh, we're gonna be besties."
We just got on. I just remember it being. You got to remember that. We're both British. I think you're in America. You're on this huge set, this huge machine, this massively. Marvel, such a banner. And I think that I don't know how. I think there was just a playfulness, whether or not you're in the scenes with certain people. I just thought it was a lot of fun. I loved it. I had such a laugh.
So much fun. And just, I think we appreciated it at the time, which was great to go, it's nice to have those people around you that go, yeah, this is crazy cool. And the thing that bonded us in that moment was Adrienne walked by and we were like, whoa, she's so amazing. Like, we were both like, wow. Just kind of in awe. And then so it was like this. So I was on this side actually, and you're Simon. So along walks Adrienne, and we're both just like that. And then you looked back at me and caught me. I was like, she's amazing, isn't she? You were like, oh my gosh, she's so amazing.
Don't see many like that down Clapham High Street.
Yes. She was in her actually, I think she was in her Hydra outfit at that point. Anyway, she comes in the next couple episodes, and it was just like that mutual appreciation for just like, wow. I mean,
that's hilarious.
That's a movie star right there.
The hilarious moment,
Yeah. Oh, there we go.
Where did we was like, after this episode, was it? Just no, I was just trying to think about the table reads at this point. This was episode 3, right?
This is episode 3, and then I think it was episode 4 that Bobby comes in, I think and so. She does this amazing fight scene, and those
her
scenes,
intro, the thing where she comes down like that.
Those scenes were in a random medical building. Remember that? All the Hydra scenes in this episode.
Is it in the valley?
It was Deep Valley.
Yeah.
And it used to be an actual medical testing facility. So there were, it had a weird energy because it, it was bizarre. So that was another fun thing, is that you're on this very strange kind of set where the corridor lights are kind of blinking in and out, and this whole place is going to be pulled down anytime soon. And, God knows how much money we were paying to like rent it to film in, but it was just the most bizarre situations that you find yourself in. With you saying, Simon, that this is far from Clapham High Street, how was, obviously this is maybe quite a long question, we're about to finish the episode, but like, what was that kind of leap of faith that made you go to America, or how did you end up going from South London to America?
Yeah, I had done a few, I've always played, very different characters. So like in the UK, I'd played so many different nationalities. I'd played everything from the Ukraine to, you know, Colombian, with every permutation, you know, in between. And I felt it got to a certain point. I think it was, I'd just done Quantum of Solace. It was
no big deal. James Bond.
No big
it
deal.
was the second. Yeah.
No big deal. How many times have you watched that?
MBD. No, exactly. It was Daniel Craig's second outing, and I just met so many people there that I spoke to, and they just all were like, it was a very inspiring time. And I'd gone back to theatre, and having come out of, I did a play on the West End, and I came out of the theatre. I'd just done James Bond, and I did a great filming in Sweden, actually, and a real beautiful movie that I did here. And I just thought, you know what, if I can get the visa, why not go and see? I just thought at that point, you know, I'd left so many careers behind at this point. Like,
that's another thing to,
you know, I was trained as an investment banker. I'd worked in finance. I then I left that to open a kind of coffee shop with the family. Then I worked as a set assistant. Then I became an assistant director, and I kept on walking away from these careers. So once I became an actor, I was like, well, this is what I'm meant to do. I had that. And I've still got it now. I just think that, you know, when you feel, why not keep the adventure alive? Keep your head up. Keep looking around. Keep experiencing. I think that as an actor, that is the fuel, right, for me. So I just kept on wanting to keep that alive. I think when you choose a job that's about the human condition, the more experience and the more you can live, I think only adds to your work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So how was that, you know, when you tried all the different things, and how did you reach the conclusion of this isn't worth going forward? And then how did that feel differently when you started acting? And like, how did you know? Because I get lots of questions going, how did you know that this is what you want to pursue? How do you know you want to put everything on the line to do this one thing? Is there a words you can put it into? Or
I mean, I always kind of qualify this with saying that, you know, I can always talk about what happened with me, and, you know, but I'd never follow my life. You know, everyone's got their own path, and I've always said this. There's so much. I think when you are looking at a life like this, with so many stories where it doesn't work out, and, you know, so the career, you know, your career can be doing great and then disappear. You know, that's in all of our. I've lost 3 homes along the way. You know, as you know. I think that anyone that says that there's one way is trying to sell you something. You know, everyone's got a story, from being discovered like Orlando Bloom to someone that it happens to them in their 50s or 60s or never. You know, there's always a version. I think for me, I think that when I was on set as an assistant director on Troy, and I was spotted by Wolfgang Peterson, and he said, you must come here, you know, and, you know, let's get a wig on him. And I was like, all right. And they were like, right, you do this thing. And I was like, all right. And then they're like, okay, Brad Pitt, you stand here, and Peter O'Toole, you do this. And I was like, acting is easy.
And it is.
Like, yeah, let's go, you know. You know, it was, I think, you know, not that he'd remember, but Brad Pitt had a compliment and said something, and I went, thanks, Brad Pitt. And then, you know, I just was like, what's going on? You know, Peter O'Toole went, come here, my boy, and signed my, you know, call sheet. And I left there going, yeah, I want to do that.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I want to do.
Yeah, I'll do that then. Thanks. Great. You know, and obviously it wasn't as easy. But I mean, I think that, you know, I had such a unique entrance into this job, and what happened for me, that is just bizarre. But, you know, that's literally just, you know, all the different little things. I think if someone was to say to me, how do you know? You don't. And there's no guarantees. I tell you what though, if you've got, the first thing I always say is, how close are you with your family? Because you're going to be living with them, eating with them, seeing them loads, you know. Because, you know, chances are it ain't going to happen immediately. But I can tell you this, if your intentions are to find out, if you're interested in the human condition and you love literature and storytelling and philosophy and people, you're not going to find a better job, because you're going to learn about so many things. You know, every new job is a ton of research, books, movies. You're going to get to travel. You know, you're going to get to see people. If you're a dick, don't do it, because you know what? It's hard enough anyway, and you don't want to make people's work harder. But if you're all right and you're interested in people, then it's the best job in the world.
Yeah, love that. I'd never heard that story about
I've never heard that
Troy
either.
before.
Oh yeah. I was working with Beth Elliott, who is still in the business, and she works with Kiefer Sutherland now. And Beth was my boss, and we were on something called Hear the Silence, about the Andrew Wakefield, the MMR, you know, jab whole conspiracy. And it was a drama. It was with Juliet Stevenson and Hugh Bonneville, who were in London. I was an assistant director. Beth, my best friend's wife, had a casting for extras for Troy. He was out of town. He said, "Go, please take her." I took her. They were at this hall in North London, and the casting director came out and said, "No more women. We're only taking 3 guys. You, and you." And I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. You know, we're late. It was my fault. You know, let's go." And the woman was like, "No, you." So I was like, "Oh, brilliant. I'll bullshit her in." So I went up and I took her in. They went, "No more women." I said, "Oh, but look, she's my wife. She's beautiful, you know." And in the end, they took a photo, and I went in and they took my measurements and photograph and were calling, and I ignored their calls because I had a job. But then it got to the week of the day that I would have had to go as an extra. And Beth said, "What are you doing on Friday?" I said, "I'm here with you." She goes, "We don't need you. My friend is working on Troy. They've got a hell of a lot of extras. They need an assistant director. I mentioned you." She said, "Brilliant, call her." I said, "Who is she?" It was the same woman that was calling me to be an extra. So I said, "Funny story, I'm on 2 of your lists." This is the funniest story. I turn up early. We're doing all the paperwork as assistant directors. She's like, why don't we get him in the outfit? And if there's a break, we'll get you on set as an extra and it'll be fun. They get me in the ancient Greek skirts and sandals, and they had to staple them in. And then it got busy and they didn't have time to take the staples out. So I'm running around with the headset, waist down as an ancient Greek, but waist up as a regular guy.
That is so funny.
You've got all these extras thinking, why does he think he's so special? And you've got all the crew going, who's the extra that's mugged an AD? And that's how Wolfgang Peterson spotted me at that moment and went, "What's your story?" And I was like, "I haven't got time." And he said, no, let's get a wig on you. You got a good look. And that's literally how it all started. So
wow, what an amazing sequence of events. You're meant to be doing this. Yes. You have so many stories like that of just kind of one thing leads to the next, and all of a sudden, and you just keep saying, "Oh, sure, okay, well, yeah, put me in the pants then. Well, actually, no, I've got to go then. I'll just have my headset on." And, you know, I think maybe not having too much of an ego is a good thing as well, to just be like, "Well, I'm going to throw everything at this."
Yeah, just go with it.
Right, the episode is finished.
Yes, let's bring in some people.
Yeah, this is the part we bring a couple people in and see if they have a question. So I'm going to admit Cora, because Cora actually sent an email that I ended up reading out on the intro to the podcast this week.
Oh, cool.
So isn't that just such a nice sequence of events?
It is.
I can hear Cora.
Cora!
Hi!
Yeah.
Hello!
How are you?
Hi, it's so good to see you guys. I'm so good. How are you?
We're good.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
You have a question?
Yeah, I do have a question. How much, because you're talking about how Baksi has amazing like costumes, how much of that do you as actors get to control, and how much is like predetermined for you by the creative team?
Great question.
Great question.
You go into a room, there's always a variety on display for that episode. So you have a kind of, you've got a parameter to choose from. And some things don't fit, some things, at the end of the day, the job, if you've got someone as amazing as Anne, it can be limiting in terms of you're like, well, I just don't feel good in any of this. Or you're given 5 things which all feel great. And you're just trying to, you're trying to figure out then the storyline and how prepared you are in terms of, oh, well, does this work with where I'm meant to be in the story? And you can kind of figure out the different looks for that episode, different days that exist. And, hopefully it all works out, or they're all crap, and then you just, fire everyone.
Yeah, it's a balancing act, isn't it? Because when you have someone like Anne that is invested so much in the character from a costume point of view, I always found my fittings with her, I'd go in and go, oh my gosh, this is so cool, and we kind of feed off each other, and she loved collaborating and was very much like, you need to feel comfortable, and please, let me know if all this is wrong, we can shop again. That I have worked with other people that maybe aren't very much like that, and your job is to be the puppet, not to have an opinion.
Yeah.
And both ways are valid. In my opinion, the more kind of, the more people the more collaborative it is, the better it ends up being. But it's not always as, we don't always get so much of an opinion.
Yeah, I'd totally agree with that.
Yeah. Thank you for your question, Cora.
Yeah, thank you so much. So glad to be here.
Yes, of course. Thank you for being here.
I like your glasses.
Yeah, me too.
Very cool.
Oh, thank you. They're blue light glasses. I just bought them off Amazon.
Awesome. Yeah, they're cool.
We've got an array of blue light glasses that you never wear.
I never wear them.
Agentsofshield. Is that a Greek name?
I don't know. I wondered. We'll have to ask.
Yes, kumbare.
John, are you Greek?
Can't see anyone.
Oh, hi.
John. Hi, John.
Hi. It's Rachel, actually.
Rachel's been on before. You've been on before, haven't you?
Oh, hi, Rachel.
Welcome back.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello. Wow, I'm so sorry. This just keeps happening.
What's that you come on? That's great.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Do you have Greek heritage?
No, I don't.
Oh, we're wondering where Zamatis is from.
It's Lithuanian.
Oh, okay.
Oh, cool. Not far.
Yeah.
Not far.
Sorry. Anyway, what's your question, Rachel? Do you have one?
I actually really did not expect to be on here today. I just wanted to say, Simon, every single time I saw Baksi, I was like freaking out. I'm like, no.
See, I don't know if that's good or bad.
You're just like Clark.
Like he's an amazing character. Like you did such an amazing job.
Oh, thank you. It means a lot.
Like, so every single time I saw Baksi, I'm like,
no, yeah, we love to hate him, don't we?
It was a love to hate, wasn't it? I mean, that's what I loved. I mean, I remember being. I'll tell you guys a story. I was standing at the AMC in Century City in Los Angeles, and I was standing there. It must have been a few episodes in, and I was waiting for a friend to turn up to go and watch a movie, and somebody walked past and just whispered it as they walked past, and I went, "Yeah, I'm that guy." Everyone hates me. Sort of likes me. That was awesome. I'm glad I made you're very uncomfortable, and I'm glad you hated the character, Rachel. It's really
that's the point, isn't it? So good. Well, thank you for coming on, Rachel, and thank you so much, Cora. Simon, this has just flown by. Thank you for coming on. We love you.
I love you guys very much.
Your story's just so inspiring, and just the many twists and turns that it's taken, and I just think that's whatever your path is. I think it's wonderful for people to see that it's not always well, it's never really a linear path. It's gonna, you know, be up and down and left and right.
And we're very happy it led you into our lives because we've just become great
We've
friends
not let
out
you
of it.
go.
Yeah, we've not let you.
No, we've had the pleasure of enjoying each other's company in England and America. I mean, it's just been a joy. And like I said, you know, if you're doing it for the right reasons, it shines. And, you know, who knows what's next?
A lot of exciting things for you. And, you know, you are, which we haven't even touched on, is just everything else you do, direct and write and produce and create. I think it's, you know, all comes from that same passion of people, like you say.
You too. I mean, this is the thing, you know, it's, I think creative inspiration, when you're open to that, can come in any form, and not anyone is right or wrong, and they should be explored. And I think that's the gift of, you know, of being, you know, shining a light on that is such a great thing. And especially in these really tough times, you know, with people at home a lot and just being able to watch things and escape into worlds and being inspired to write their own stories and ideas or create things. I think that's just, you know, a wonderful thing.
Totally. What a great thing to end it on.
Yes.
Just to say that for people that ask questions in the chat, I will be answering some in the outro of the podcast version of this, which will be out on Tuesday. So, you know, blame Zach and then listen to the podcast.
I'm terrible at the chat these days. I get so engaged in these conversations that I forget about the chat.
You've got to realize, guys, that we're good friends. So we actually have these kind of conversations all the time. So tonight for me just felt sort of like just hanging out, but, you know, nice to meet you all as well.
Well, thank you. Zach's got his new merch on. You had the jumper on last week. Now you've got the t-shirt.
I have the t-shirt.
If I was in the States, I'd be wearing that 100%.
There you go. Right, gonna fill up from the waiting room. Our limit is 100, so 98 people are going to come zooming in. Well, no, 94.
Zooming in.
96.
Maybe that's why they call it Zoom.
My math is so bad. They're going to zoom in. Yeah, so it gets chaotic, Simon. We just wait for a couple minutes, see people's faces, and then we'll end it. But thank you. You're the best. We love you.
Me too.
Here everybody comes.
Wow.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hi, baby.
Hi.
Bye, guys.
Hi.
Guys,
thanks for the podcast. Hi.
Merch. I love them.
Hi.
Look at my merch.
Hi.
Comfy sweater.
Hi.
I follow you on TikTok.
Hi. Hi.
Love the merch.
Sarah, Molly.
Conversation.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
Bye, Azula. Bye.